Hello, you're watching the 6 o'clock news on Voxafrica, brought to you from London. I'm Kesha Gitari. Our headlines tonight. World leaders meet in Uganda for a summit to raise money for the fastest growing refugee crisis in the world. Former president of Botswana, Ketumile Masire, has died at the age of 91. The first war memorial recognizing Afro-Caribbean soldiers has been unveiled in London. Uganda and the United Nations are hoping to raise $2 billion at the ongoing Refugee Solidarity Summit in Kampala to help deal with the rapid growing number of refugees. Uganda hosts more than 1 million refugees, most of whom have fled a civil war in neighbouring South Sudan. But the country is now struggling to cope with the influx. Norway, Denmark and India have pledged $5 million, $40 million and $1 million respectively. The EU Commission for Human Rights Aid and Crisis Management has pledged $95 million, more than doubling the pledging amount so far. Now, earlier, the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres visited a refugee settlement in northern Kampala ahead of the fundraising summit that kicked off in earnest on Friday in Kampala. On Thursday, the EU pledged $95 million to Uganda to help the country deal with the nearly 1 million refugees from Sudan. UN Chief Antonio Guterres went on to urge donors to give 20 times the amount as he met with South Sudanese refugees who had fled civil war in their country.
In a world where so many people are selfishly closing their doors, closing their borders, not allowing refugees to come, this example deserves praise, admiration from the whole of the international community. The leaders of the country have not deserved the people they have, and the people is suffering enormously with this endless war. It is time for the war to end. It's time for all the leaders of South Sudan to understand that they need to stop this war.
A car bomb targeting a police station killed at least 7 people in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, on Thursday. Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab have claimed responsibility for the attack, the second this week. The director of the Amin Ambulance Service, Abdi Kadir Abdi Rahman, said in a statement 7 people had died and 12 others sustained injuries as a result of the blast. On Tuesday, a car bomb attack on a government building also in the capital, also claimed by Al-Shabaab militants, killed at least 10 people. Botswana's former president, Ketumile Masire, has died at the age of 91. Sir Ketumile, who led Botswana for 18 years from 1980, has been praised for cementing the stability in the country and laying the foundations for its economic success. He supported the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa and worked to help resolve a number of other regional disputes during his career, including struggles in Namibia, Zimbabwe and Mozambique. After stepping down in 1998, he worked as a mediator in a number of conflicts, including in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Botswana's government has announced 3 days of national mourning. South Africa's President Jacob Zuma has said a secret ballot in Parliament in a motion of no confidence against him would not be fair, as it was meant to help the opposition parties garner a majority that they do not have. His comments follow a ruling by the country's top court allowing MPs to cast ballots of no confidence in secret on Thursday. A secret ballot is seen by Zuma's critics as emboldening lawmakers from his own party to support his ousting by shielding them from pressure. Addressing Parliament, the president said he saw no convincing reason why the change was necessary. Ford Motors South Africa is recalling nearly 16,000 Icon and Figo models due to a potential fire risk. The company said on Friday that the models, which were built between 2004 and 2012 in India, could experience a power steering fluid leak that could result in fumes being emitted from the engine compartment. Earlier this year in South Africa, Ford recalled 4,500 Cougar SUVs following dozens of reports of vehicles catching fire. Now, from manufacturing to agriculture, South Africa has reported an outbreak of a highly pathogenic H5N8 bird flu at a farm in the Freetown State Province on Friday. Earlier this month, South Africa suspended all trade in birds and chicken products from neighbouring Zimbabwe after it reported an outbreak of the same virus at a commercial poultry farm. The United Nations Human Rights Council opened an investigation on Friday into killings and other atrocities in the Kasai region of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The 47-member Geneva Forum adopted by consensus a resolution brought by African countries that also called on the DRC's government to cooperate with a team of international experts. Kinshasa has been fighting insurgents in Kasai since last August, triggering fears of a wider conflict in the Central African country. Local activists have welcomed the probe agreed on the last day of the Council's 3-week session. A team from the International Criminal Court concluded its initial look into claims of post-election violence in Gabon last year. The ICC has not yet opened a formal inquiry into the claims of violence made by defeated presidential candidate, opposition leader Jean Ping, and 15 non-governmental organizations. But the group, who arrived on Tuesday, spent 2 days carrying out preliminary investigations.
Leur présence vise à vérifier.
Their presence is to verify if the alleged facts referred to us are crimes that fall under the ICC jurisdiction, which deals with war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. It is a preliminary examination. It is not an investigation in the sense we have come to collect witnesses, to gather evidence, because we don't have the mandate at this stage. It is necessary to continue to collect information, to evaluate this information, to evaluate also the reliability of the people or organizations or authorities which have transmitted this information to us. No decision has been taken on what actions should be taken on this case.
Le même épisode fait l'objet de versions très contradictoires.
There are very contradictory versions of this same event, depending on whether the version is given by the government or by the opposition. And the statistics for the number of victims goes from 3 to 300 victims, so it makes a huge difference.
Over 1,000 people took to the streets of Benin's economic capital, Cotonou, on Thursday to protest against President Patrice Talon amid growing unease with his government's economic reforms. A coalition of opposition parties and civil activists led the rally, which coincided with trade unions launching of a 2-day strike against the government's move to privatize port management. On Wednesday, the local government refused to allow the march to take place, but the president overturned the ruling, stating that freedom of expression and opinion of the Beninese people remains a cardinal value in the country.
The people do not want this governance where their country is run like a private enterprise and where the citizens are treated as employees of the boss who owes them nothing. The people do not want any violation of their freedom. The people do not want police chiefs that harm the freedom and the welfare of the citizen. The people do not want the privatization of the vital sector of the economy.
Le peuple continuera jusqu'aux États généraux.
People will continue until the People's General Assembly to be able to put an end to the mess and ensure that our country can find a better way of life again, a good collaboration between these children.
The president does not keep his word. He said he will carry out his mandate, but when he refused his constitution, he said he will think about it. He talks about a grand Ndokwe project just for his campaign. What has he done for this country concretely?
Now, Nigeria's oil production is rebounding. The country plans to exceed 2 billion barrels per day come August. But even as the sector recovers, its oil-producing region is in need of significant environmental attention, as oil slicks, which have blackened the waters, killed fish and ruined mangroves, remain untouched. Let's find out more in this report.
On the banks of the Niger Delta, the boats are docked and the fishermen absent, signs of an area desecrated by the region's oil industry. Ogoniland in southern Nigeria is suffering the consequences of 50 years of oil exploitation. The water is not fit to drink, and the few fishermen still working must travel miles just to find aquatic life.
We can't see no fish in this water because the water is stained with crude oil, and no living fish can be available to survive with this water. So the oil is polluted everything.
1 year ago, the Nigerian government launched a massive project to clean up Ogoni, spurred by the UN. The cleanup operation, costing an estimated $1 billion, was due to last some 30 years, with oil company Shell covering part of the costs. But 1 year on, only $10 million have been released and work has yet to begin.
We are trying to navigate very carefully to ensure that everything that will be put in place is something that will be durable and is something that could meet the test line that is expected of this cleanup by the United Nations.
Frustrated with the slow progress, local environmentalist Michael decided to plant trees to restore the damaged flora in the area in an attempt to counter the pollution.
Because of the pollution, a lot of carbon-related particles are thrown into the community and into the atmosphere. So the trees now trap and capture them, bring them down and use them for photosynthesis. Now when they use the carbon for photosynthesis, the trees will return oxygen for human consumption, and we will live.
The largest hydrocarbon reserve in Africa, the Delta has long attracted multinational and multi-billion-dollar oil companies. But with little progress on the cleanup, they've left a legacy of anger and frustration.
Now it's time for a short break, but still to come on tonight's programme. A man has been charged over Monday's attack on worshippers at a London mosque. A police investigation reveals a fridge freezer was the cause of the Grenfell Tower fire. And the first war memorial to honour Afro-Caribbean soldiers is unveiled in London.